All right, let me tell you a story I still think about. Every time I walk through a busy street, every time I see someone sitting alone, or when life reminds me that miracles sometimes come in the smallest, most unlikely packages. She was 7.5 months pregnant and sitting on the cold sidewalk like she'd just melted into it, right there between a trash bin and a cafe patio full of people who were too busy with lattes and phones to care. Her name was Claire Whitmore, wife of a tech mogul, glowing and strong most days, just not that one. That day, she was just a woman who couldn't stand, couldn't breathe, who whispered, "Please," to a crowd that kept walking. You ever feel invisible in the loudest place possible? Yeah, like that. It had started off fine. Her driver had dropped her a couple blocks early. She wanted air. You know how it is when you're pregnant and just need to move. But halfway down the block, the air turned heavy. Her ribs tightened, her legs wobbled, and next thing she knew, she was down on the sidewalk, gray knit dress smudged, hair sticking to her face, hands clutching her stomach like it was the only thing keeping her here. And still, nobody stopped. Not one damn person. Until him. Tiny hand, warm touch, like the world finally noticed. She opened her eyes and saw a little boy standing in front of her, barefoot, wild curls full of ash, clothes hanging off his skinny frame like they belonged to a ghost. Couldn't have been more than 6 years old. "You okay, lady?" he asked, like it was the most natural thing in the world. No fear. Just real concern. Claire choked out, "I think I'm having contractions," and his face changed, not panicked, just focused. Like he'd heard worse and knew what to do. "I can get a doctor," he said. "Don't move, I'll come back." And just like that, he ran. No hesitation. He darted into traffic, nearly clipped by a taxi, then ran up to strangers, shouting, pleading, grabbing sleeves. "Help! She's going to have a baby," and I swear, they pushed him off like he was trash in the wind. One guy even snapped, "Get off me, kid." But he didn't quit. Finally, one woman turned. Purple coat. Saw what he saw. Claire, curled up and trembling. "Oh my God," she gasped. "Call 911. And boom, wheels in motion. Minutes later, Claire was on a stretcher, her hand wrapped around that same tiny one. "You saved us," she whispered, tears mixing with sweat. And that boy, he just nodded. But what he said next hit her harder than any contraction. "You talk to me like I'm not trash," he mumbled. Eyes down. "No one ever talks to me like that." That ambulance door closed, but those words stayed. And an hour later, when a doctor said, "You and the baby are okay, but just barely," Claire didn't think of the machines, or the nurses, or the Ford dripping into her arm. She thought of him. That barefoot boy. "Where is he?" she asked. "I need to see him." But he was gone. Didn't give a name. Didn't wait for thanks. Just sat outside the ER for a bit and vanished. Claire's heart cracked wide open. That night, her husband, Matthew Whitmore, suit-wearing, empire-building, 6 figures before lunch kind of guy, rushed into the hospital room. And Claire didn't say much. Just held his hand and said, "Find him, please." So he did. They found him the next day, behind a bakery, curled near a vent for warmth, clutching an empty cup like it had secrets in it. Same jacket, same missing sleeve, same cracked fingers. Matthew stepped out of a sleek red car. Polished shoes on wet concrete, coat worth more than most cars on the block. But he crouched, low and slow. "Was it you?" he asked. "Did you help my wife?" The boy looked up, unsure. "She was hurt," he said. "I didn't want the baby to die." Matthew's throat clenched. He pulled out an envelope. Thick, heavy, filled with enough to change a life. "This is for you," he said. "Buy whatever you need." But the boy didn't reach for it. Didn't even look. "Can I ask something else?" he whispered. Matthew nodded. "Of course." And then came the question that cracked him wide open. "Can I live where someone talks to me like she did?" Yeah, let that sit. That little boy wasn't begging for toys or food or a soft bed. He wanted to belong. To be spoken to like he mattered. Not pitted. Not dismissed. Just seen. Matthew folded the envelope and tucked it back into his coat. Then he stood, held out his hand, and said, "Come with me. Let's go home." It wasn't easy. First night, the boy didn't eat. Didn't speak. Asked to sleep on the floor because, in his words, "Beds ain't for kids like me." But Claire sat with him, rubbed his back, gave him socks. She didn't ask anything of him, just stayed, breathing slow beside him. Days passed. They learned his name was Malik, that he didn't know his birthday, That shelters turned him away. That no one came looking, because no one ever had. Claire and Matthew had never fostered. Never even thought about it. But within 2 weeks, Malik smiled. Within 4, he laughed, quiet at first. Then loud, real. When Claire went into labor, Malik wouldn't leave the hospital couch. Sat there with a teddy bear clenched in his arms like it was armor. Refused to sleep until Claire came out. Baby in arms, crying with life. "You want to meet your baby brother?" a nurse asked. Malik blinked. "Brother?" Claire nodded. "He's yours too." Malik didn't say a word. Just sat beside her and placed a hand on the baby's blanket. And I swear, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. 6 months later, in a quiet courtroom, the judge asked if he knew what adoption meant. Malik just nodded and said, "Means I don't gotta run no more." That was it. Now, there's a photo on the Whitmore's mantle, Claire on that sidewalk, belly round, hand in Malik's. Both of them holding on like the world depended on it. Matthew comes home by 6 every night now. Not for meetings. For Malik's homework and diaper changes and bedtime stories. He told a journalist once, "I thought I had everything. Turns out, it took a kid with nothing to teach me what love actually looks like. Now here's where I pass it to you. 'Cause stories like this, they don't end. They keep echoing in how we see people, how we help, how we choose to slow down and care. So let me ask you this. Was it luck, fate, or the goodness still buried in this world? Let me know in the comments. Was it just kindness or something more? And if you felt something, share this. Because someone out there needs a reminder that they're not invisible, not trash, not forgotten. You know what I mean? Malik had a family now. But having a roof doesn't mean you've found a home. And even though he wasn't sleeping on concrete anymore or digging through trash for dinner, the boy still carried his past like a weight strapped to his back. Quiet steps. Eyes always scanning the room. Fingers always ready to let go. One night, maybe 2 months after the baby was born, Matthew found him standing on the upstairs balcony, staring out at the empty street below. The city was quiet. All those glowing windows, all that life behind glass, and Malik was just watching. Couldn't sleep? Matthew asked, his voice low. Malik shook his head. Didn't want to. Matthew leaned against the railing beside him. For a while, neither said anything. Until Matthew, hesitating, asked, "Still don't trust us?" Malik's voice came out small but sharp. "I trust her," he said. "She says my name like it matters. You talk like you're waiting for me to mess up." And man, that hit Matthew straight in the gut. He didn't argue, didn't defend himself. He just nodded and whispered, "That's fair." But that night, after everyone else was asleep, Matthew got in his car and drove. He followed an address a social worker had once scribbled down, turned into a rough block in East Fulton, and knocked on the rusted side door of an old shelter that smelled like bleach and mold. A woman with tired eyes opened it. "Malik?" she repeated. "Yeah, we know him. Came and went. Wouldn't stay long. Too proud. Too quiet. Got jumped once. Never told nobody." Matthew stood in silence as she added, "You're the one who took him in, huh? Good luck. Kid's been left behind too many times to know what forever feels like." And that's when it happened, the twist no one expected. On the way back, just a few blocks from that shelter, Matthew stopped at a red light and noticed 2 kids huddled by a dumpster behind a closed diner. A boy, maybe 8 or 9, asleep against a cardboard box. But it was the little girl that stopped him cold. She was tiny, 4, maybe 5. Her hair was tied into lopsided braids. Her face was smeared with dried toothpaste like someone had tried to wash her with whatever they had. And she was clutching the boy's arm like it was her only anchor in the world. Matthew stepped out of his car slowly. "Hey," he said, careful not to startle them. The boy bolted upright, shielding the girl. "She's fine. Don't take her. Please." Matthew didn't push. Just stood there, heart heavy, head spinning. That night, he barely slept. The next morning, he told Claire. Described the girl's face, the braids, the toothpaste. And right in the middle of his story, Malik froze. "You saw Tyla?" he whispered, eyes wide. Claire turned. "Tyla. My sister," Malik choked. "They took her. Said I couldn't keep her safe. Said I was too young to be her guardian. So they split us." And just like that, the whole story shifted. Everything we thought we knew about Malik, his silence, his fear, the way he held himself back, it wasn't just trauma. It was guilt. The kind that comes from breaking a promise, from letting go of the only person you ever loved because you didn't have a choice. Claire pulled him into a hug. "We'll find her," she said. And they did. Or at least, they tried. Turns out, the foster system is a maze. A cold, confusing one. And kids like Malik and Tyla, undocumented, unclaimed, forgotten, are the ones most likely to fall through the cracks. But money moves mountains, and persistence does the rest. It took nearly 7 weeks. 7 weeks of digging through red tape, chasing down closed files, sitting through silent phone calls. 7 weeks of Malik sleeping with a flashlight on and waking up crying without remembering why. Until finally, they found her. Tyla was staying at a temporary group home on the far side of town. One of those places with plastic mattresses, paper name tags on cots, and hallways that smell like sadness. When Claire and Malik arrived, Tyla was sitting on the floor in a corner, folding a crumpled sandwich wrapper into a tiny paper boat. Malik took a step toward her. "Tyla," he whispered. She looked up, blinked, and then her whole face exploded into light. "Malik!" She ran straight into his arms, little hands clutching his hoodie, sobbing like a dam had broken. He hugged her tighter than he ever had before. Everything else happened fast after that. Claire signed papers. Matthew called lawyers. A judge looked them over once and gave a slow, almost emotional nod. Tyla was going home. The first night back, she fell asleep in Claire's lap. Hair freshly washed, feet warm in new socks. Malik sat close by, just watching her. Watching her breathe like he couldn't believe it was real. And he said something then. Something so quiet Claire almost missed it. "I told her I'd come back." That was all. They never posted it online. Never made it a story. Never told reporters that they'd adopted 2 kids who came from nothing. Because this wasn't about saving anyone. It was about seeing them. 6 weeks later, in a quiet courtroom, Malik and Tyla became Whitmores. Officially. Legally. Forever. When the judge asked Malik if he understood what adoption meant, he nodded. "It means I don't gotta leave her behind no more." And just like that, it was done. Now, there's a new photo on the mantle. Claire on the sidewalk, hand in Malik's. Right beside it, one of Tyla in a yellow dress holding the baby. And every night, Matthew gets home by 6. Not for business calls. For dinner. For bedtime stories. For second chances. He told a reporter later, "I thought I was building a legacy. Turns out, I was just waiting for my real life to begin. Now it's your turn. What do you think? Was it fate that led Malik to Claire that day? Or was it just one boy who refused to let the world tell him he didn't matter? Is kindness enough to change a life? Or does the system need more than that? Tell us in the comments. We want to hear from you. And if this story moved you, share it. Because someone out there needs to know they're not alone. That they're seen. That they still matter.